This is episode 46 of Discussion Combustion. We're doing things different tonight. We're doing a trial run with video that will be live for everybody. We're going to start releasing them live for everybody coming March 4th. This is kind of a trial run episode. It may or may not be out there. It may just be on our Patreon. We're really excited to get in tonight's episode. We have Megan in the building. And of course, you know we are brought to you by Wild Outdoor Adventures.
That's right. That's WOAMEET.com. Wild Outdoor Adventures is an online outdoor activity community designed for any and everybody. Hope for Teens Project, Hope for Veterans, Colorado entrepreneurs, guys. These guys are trying to get people connected, get them outdoors, get them doing things that, they don't always have access to doing. Teens are being bullied. This is a great organization to get people outside. Sign up now. It's free over at WA Meet. Got great whitewater rafting trips coming up, a lot of other great things. Check them out, YouTube. They have great videos of all these tours that they've been on and all the great things that these guys do. So if, you're a little unsure about it, Kevin does a great job at posting all of their outdoor activities. You can get a feel for how it goes. But the main thing is it's free to sign up, guys.
Also, I know I'm not a veteran, but I do have many friends that served. And, thank you to all the vets out there. Wild Outdoor Adventures does have vet-specific programs for the veterans returning home. And that way you can get out and about in this beautiful state of Colorado with people who have served as well. I know it's hard coming back. It's hard relating with other people. This is something that could really help out to bring people together and get adapted back to society living, because it's a lot different.
Yeah, it really is, man. And that's what's great about it. I mean, it is specific to Colorado, WA. They do have some other states that are available. But, if you just moved here, it really provides an opportunity to connect people. Easy to use interface. Just go on there. It's free to sign up. Follow them on all social media platforms. WA, always having your best interests in mind. Kevin's getting ready to launch a small business advertising platform for a flat rate for 1 calendar year. You can post your business on there and advertise through WA. Great connections. They have great partnerships. So if you want to get your business heard, WA also has your best interests in mind. That's less streaming and more exploring. Today's episode is also brought to you by Mountain Made CBD. Crystal clear CBD, the clearest, the purest, the most affordable CBD on the market. That's Mountain Made.
Go ahead and hop online, visit mountainmade.life. That's .life, and you know that they're rolling out with the pre-roll puff. I'm pretty sure is it the only pre-roll puff, CBD only joint that's in the market?
These guys are coming in different, man.
No THC. This is a sweet thing that they're doing. I'm pretty sure they still got that promo going where if you go online, you buy the Build, Boost, and or Recover, you're going to be able to get a puff pre-roll for only $3.
$3, guys. That's a great deal. These guys are saturating the market a different way. This is a smokable CBD flower pre-roll coming at it from a different angle. Also, some great products coming down the line later this year. Mike's going to have some big announcements with that. These guys are always innovating. That's the purpose of Mountain Made. They keep your interest in mind. They're tackling it at a cheaper rate. They're nationwide, guys, shipping nationwide. So if you're a dispensary in South Carolina, Texas, wherever you're at, Mountain Made could be on your shelves.
Yeah, absolutely. Dispensaries out there, there's a lot of regulations that came out, and everybody's looking for CBD. It's still a relatively new market out there. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of companies that aren't doing it quite right, but we sponsor Mountain Made because of how they do it, what their actual purpose drive, what their whole business mindset is about, and that's about keeping the cost down, keeping the milligram dosage of CBD higher, and helping people that are in need of this product that helps with anxiety. It could help with animal issues. It could help with joint pain. It could help give you a little bit of energy. It's so beneficial in so many different ways, and it's a beautiful thing what Mountain Made are doing over there. And if you listen to the episodes that Mike was on, he'll tell you he had opportunities to cut costs and use different ingredients in his product, but he kept the more expensive ingredients that are going to work better with the product in order to give something to people that is going to help balance their lifestyle.
That's right. That's going like hell, man. Mountain Made's doing things a little bit differently. And if you're pumping iron from Boston to California, wherever you're at in this country, you want to be a brand ambassador. These guys have the Mountain Made mob. Always looking for new athletes to bring on board. Check them out. Instagram, Twitter, they're everywhere. Mountain Made's doing big things. Build, Boost, Recover, and now the Puff. Be sure to grab yourself a puff. $3. That's a great deal when you get yourself a build.
That is a great deal. And it's just a new way to do it, man. They're touching every single you can go get a tincture, you could go do it all these old school ways, but to get it right into your system with a tablet or a nice pre-roll that's CBD only, now that's unique. Now that's what I'm talking about. I can't wait to just see what they keep going with. I mean, we've been talking Mountain Made for a while now, and the leaps and bounds that they've done as a company, they've grown tremendously. They really have their customers in their mind when they're doing everything. They think about the people that they're helping first.
Absolutely. It's one of the few companies that I've ever worked with that says they prefer to hear the negative feedback rather than the positive feedback. That tells you that innovation is their number one priority. It really is great stuff, guys. You've heard us push it on this show a lot. Mountain Made CBD. Head over to mountainmade.life and get your crystal clear CBD.
Absolutely. Mountainmade.life. That's #GoLikeHell.
That's right. Let's get into it. This is episode 46, Discussion Combustion. Big changes around here, guys. We are in a video trial run. Good friend of ours, Megan, in the building. Middle school teacher. We have a lot to get into tonight. Megan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is going to be fun. First
I think
podcast
so,
for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you listen to podcasts?
No, not really.
Do you listen to our podcast?
Yes, I do actually listen to your podcast.
Now, are you just saying that because...
Yes, I am.
I knew it.
No, I don't listen to your podcast. I'm sorry.
That's funny.
That's okay.
funny.
That's an honest answer. I can appreciate that.
That is good. So you teach middle school, and what led you into like why did you choose education for your career path, for your life? Is it a life passion?
Yes, absolutely. A lot. I've wanted to teach since I was like 12. It started off with I loved literature growing up, and I had a really cool 8th grade teacher when I was younger, and she just instilled that love of reading, and I wanted to do that too with other kids. That's what led me there, but I think the reasons have changed along the way.
Yeah.
They've become more child-oriented, not about like feeding my ego, but more about like just helping the next generation, just be stronger and better and more emotionally aware.
Yeah. I mean, the society needs that too. Society needs people that have that inherent drive to give without receiving, because I'm sure there's a lot of giving and you do a lot and don't always, receive back, like in different ways. So like, what would you say what has been one of your more satisfying moments of teaching?
I have a peace corner in my classroom, so that's where kids can go to get some emotional regulation. They have to do breathing exercises while they're there, but they can basically just chill and hang out. And I've had a couple of different kids come in, even not during my class, and use the peace corner. And then I would just email their teachers and be like, hey, they're with me when I'm having a bad day, So that feels like I'm actually doing something that matters. Just that relationship with my kids that I'm building, and the way that they can learn from me to emotionally regulate. So that feels really satisfying.
So now, how long have you been teaching now in your own classroom?
My own classroom, it's only been 2 months. It's pretty new. I'm a first-year teacher, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're loving it?
I love it. It's hard, but I love it.
Did you get to design and set up the classroom the way you want it? I mean, you said you built the peace corner over there, so
yeah,
you kind of got to put your touches on it.
Basically, as a teacher, you get chairs and a desk, like a bunch of desks everywhere. That's all you have. Everything else I've bought on my own, and I set it up exactly how I wanted it to be, so it was good.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So what? Because you came up with that peace corner idea yourself.
No, I mean it's kind of it's starting to happen a lot more in education. I don't think a lot of teachers are really using it, but we're talking about it at least.
Okay.
I just have a personal experience with meditation and mindfulness, and so I thought it was important to include.
Oh, that's good. You can carry in some of those, some of your personal characteristics, things that are important to you, into the classroom to, kind of help your students along, take some of the stress off of their day-to-day life. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, it has been. It's been really nice.
Oh, good. I remember. So, what grade do you teach now?
7th grade.
7th grade. When I was in 7th grade, I'll say this: I was a pretty lost child. I was struggling with. I was starting to get into some emotional issues. It was kind of a tough year for me. But I remember I had a geography teacher named Mr. Tickle.
Mr. Tickle?
That was his name.
Great name.
Yeah. He taught geography. And
I don't know if that name would stick nowadays.
I mean, it seems like.
Seems very distracting.
Yeah. If you didn't know him, you might think he's a pervert, but he was a nice man. And it was one of those. It's nice because when you can have a teacher that puts you at comfort when you walk in their classroom, that helps. I feel like that goes a long way.
That's really what teaching is. I mean, when you're a kid, you think that your teachers were just there to teach you that content. They're not. I mean, we're there because we care. Like, we want to be there with you. Mm-hmm. We want to learn about you. I think some teachers are better than others when it comes to expressing that. But it's really important to every teacher that we're more than just, I'm not just here to teach you literacy, how to read and write.
Yeah.
I'm here to teach you life skills that you'll need to help you succeed later on.
Now, how much of the curriculum do you have to follow? I mean, is there a specific guideline that X, Y, and Z needs to be taught to these children, or can you kind of work in some things that you would like to teach them?
Yeah, it's complicated. We have a curriculum book. It's called Lucy Calkins. It's very popular in the education world. I don't think it really fits my demographic of students, but we try to use it. But then we'll also go and just be creative with it, because none of the kids that you're teaching are going to be the same as everybody else. They're all different, you know? And so you have to be creative with it. That's really important with education.
Okay.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, because you have a foundation that you start with, and that's kind of what the district gives out is like this foundation that, and then that's probably what makes, you know, you unique as a teacher is then, and I hope teachers get room to do this and kind of build upon that foundation in their own unique way in order to, maybe you change it annually based upon the type of students that you have, so that way you're helping, you're meeting your students' needs more that way. I mean, does that?
Yeah. So these curriculum guidelines, they teach the skills that kids need, but kids don't care about skills. Kids care about, like, what can I actually, what applies to my real life?
Yeah.
Like, why do I care about any of this? If I'm teaching you how to write an argument essay, who cares? And so that's where we come in with our creativity. We're like, okay, I'm going to relate this to you as a person.
Yeah.
Rather than you as this random student that needs to learn X, Y, and Z to meet the curriculum. And so that's where the role of teachers, like, and honestly, like, it depends on the district. Some districts are a lot more lenient. Some districts are super scripted, and they only let you teach those skills. It really depends where you're working. And as a teacher, when you're interviewing, you have to ask those kinds of questions.
Yeah.
If you're looking for, you know, some kind of atmosphere where you feel like you can be creative, you have to ask your school if they're willing to do that, because not all schools are.
Yeah, that makes sense. And would you think, like, as coming from a teacher's point of view, would you prefer to be a part of one that lets you kind of have your own unique teaching style on top of the curriculum that has to be taught, or do you feel like there's a benefit to kind of sticking to the structure?
I think standards are important. I think there are certain skills that kids need to learn. And the cool thing about standards is that they scaffold it from grade to grade. So it's like a ladder, basically. In 7th grade, you're learning something that'll lead you into 8th grade, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that kind of focal point is good. But I think it's very important as a teacher to have that creativity. If you can't have that, your kids aren't going to connect with you. They're not going to connect with the curriculum, and they're not going to learn anything. It's super important to be able to say, hey, like, this is the standard we have to learn, but I'm going to show you how to learn that standard in 5 different ways. Because all kids are different, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's true. And so you said you had connected with your 8th grade teacher. That's kind of what inspired you to get into, something sparked your interest to maybe want to teach?
Yeah, that was actually, so I moved from Florida, which is a horrible school district.
Really?
When I was, Florida's the worst. But I moved there in the middle of 8th grade. I moved to Colorado in the middle of 8th grade. And that was the first time I'd ever read a literature book. We read Catcher in the Rye. Hated that book. But
I did too.
Yeah, it was horrible. I still hate that book. People love it for some reason, but whatever.
I don't think I never read that. I had a really cool teacher. They read Ender's Game to us.
Oh, nice.
And that was really cool to visualize. And then when that movie came out years and years later, it was interesting to see, you know, how the directors put it together compared to how my mind did it. And that's one interesting thing about books is you get this different visual. Like even Jurassic Park, like I had grown up watching that movie all the time. And then I read the book, and it looked completely different in my mind. It's kind of interesting how that works.
I've always been of the mind that you should read the book first and then watch the movie.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
You'll often be disappointed by the movie. The most recent one for me was Ready Player One.
Okay.
I read that book.
It's
a young adult novel.
The movie was so-so.
I thought it was
movie sucked. Honestly,
really?
like
So-so.
they missed like half the plot. Like
Really?
I was so pissed when I walked out of that theater.
Would you
It was
say,
not great.
like, percentage-wise, what do you find is more? Do you think how many times is a book better than the movie, or vice versa?
I think the book is pretty much always better than the movie.
Almost every
The
time.
movie has to cut things down. You have like an hour and a half or 2 hours to cut down this huge story. I mean, I think the only movie that I think did justice to the book was Harry Potter. and that was years ago.
Yeah.
And it's because they split it up into like 7 different movies.
It's true. It was a long series.
Yeah, I mean, you got all these books, and there's so much detail in these books. Like you can't touch it. I mean, with putting it into like an hour and a half, like you almost need to have a trilogy or something. And I know probably a lot of listeners out there, I still won't spoil anything, but for the whole Game of Thrones thing, like how captivating a lot of the seasons were, and then like when it came back down to the final 2 seasons, everyone is kind of like a little lackluster, and that's because they ran out of book material.
I actually read those books, the whole series, and honestly, the series, the TV series, did so well up until George R.R. Martin stopped creating the books.
Yeah.
And like once they had the freedom to do it on their own, they had no idea what they were doing, and they fucked it up completely.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, like the last season was horrible. Like that's not like I don't think that's how he intended it to end. I know they like collaborated, but
Yeah.
it didn't make any sense.
So without spoiling things, I agree that I wish that I'll just say this: I wish that the final battle was with the White Walkers. That would have made it a lot more epic. You haven't watched any of this, I know, Kev.
You know, I've seen the first 2 episodes, but you know, I've heard about the White Walkers, but I think you just kind of gave away some of.
Well, I just said that the final episode wasn't battle with the White Walkers.
Well, I mean, that could be enough of a spoiler, don't you think?
Well, you know, it's been out for like over a year now, right?
That's true. That's
You
true.
should just watch it
I'm
at
way
this
behind.
point.
I'll say this. Yeah, your brother tried to get me to watch the first 2 episodes. I did, and then I put on NASCAR, I think.
So, question for you: you're teaching 7th grade right now. Was that your preferred class to teach, or would you prefer to teach like a grade school, like middle school or high school, or like what did you want to teach originally?
When I first got into this, I was thinking high school. But I did a lot of my field experience. I did my student teaching with middle school. And the thing about high school that I noticed was that they need you a lot less. They have their end goals in mind. They're like, I'm going to go to college or this trade school or do whatever I want, And so they are structured. And so they have this idea of like, okay, I know my goals, so I'm going to work for those goals. The thing about middle school that's so unique is they're like halfway between being a kid and being a teenager. And they don't know what they're doing yet. And they're at this like crucial time in their lives where they need some guidance, they need some love. And I've always wanted to work with minority students that were just disenfranchised, kids that don't get opportunities that, rich white kids get. And so I ended up in East Middle School, kind of randomly. I just got placed there.
Oh, that's where you teach?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I would have went if my parents didn't move to Parker when I was in grade school still, and then they moved to Parker because like the gang violence was really bad in the 90s.
It still is.
It is still?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are gangs in our school.
Yeah.
Pretty severe or what?
I mean, there's an influence. Definitely at Hinckley, there's some gang presence. It's just the areas. It's unfortunate. A lot of times people get stuck in poverty, and there's really no other way out sometimes than feeling like a gang gives you community and makes you feel special.
Yeah,
in some
or
way.
if like your parents are absent or you don't have any sort of support at home, then the gang is going to offer this kind of,
family.
This leadership and a family and a bond. And people crave that. And, I've learned a lot about this stuff. I, read some things about it. It's kind of like, it's almost like a trap, like, cause once you're in poverty, it's extremely hard to get out of it. And that's why, you have all these people that are, I mean, that's why there's a 1%, is because most people are not, getting major wealth. And I mean, gangs is like a big friend group. And unfortunately, the things that they do aren't always on the right side of the law. But I mean, I don't know. I hate to sit here and say that, there is some strength and some things that is positive from these groups, but at the same, it's kind of like walking a fine line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I grew up in such a small country kind of school that I didn't deal with a lot of that. I dealt with bullying. That was a big issue for me in middle school and high school, and I kind of got on a committee for it to try to combat some of that. That's where I learned a lot of my aggression, I feel like, is being bullied, and I think that's a big issue. Do you see a lot of that in with your kids?
I mean, it definitely happens. I don't think it's super common at this particular school. I think schools have gotten a lot more inclusive. So I am part of a GSA. It's Gay Straight Alliance. It's a club at my school. I do it every Monday. And I think that the culture of society is becoming more inclusive, at least in some regards. And so bullying, of course, still happens. When you're a kid and you're an outcast, people automatically want to label you as one, and so they'll treat you poorly because of it. That's just a natural tendency for kids to do. But I think schools are, at the very least, this school is trying to cultivate this culture of, okay, let's be inclusive. Let's accept each other.
Yep.
And I think that works pretty well where I am.
So you help out you host a gay straight alliance that you said on Mondays?
Yeah, I'm a co-advisor.
Okay.
I just started doing it. It's like I've been to like 3 meetings, but yeah, it's I've got some kids there that are openly transgender. I've got some gay, lesbian students. I also have straight students there that are just like, hey, I want to be part of the community and I want to include you guys, and it's a great place to be. We just did a pretty cool lesson on what inclusion even means in the first place. Like, what does it mean to include somebody? And what does it mean for our school? And so we're trying to teach them, those kind of moral ideas that are helping us to become better people and more inclusive individuals.
So it's kind of an after-school activity. Mondays, these guys come over and...
Yeah, it's a choice. I mean, kids don't have to do the club. It's after school. It's 45 minutes long. It's not a big deal.
Not too bad.
If they want to come, they can come. There's a lot of kids that are just struggling with, being gay. And I did that, I struggled a lot when I was a kid too. And so I get that, and I want to help them.
That's terrific.
I think that's powerful. And, I'm... As I've grown older, as life has progressed, I've learned to look at everybody with equal eyes. If you're homeless, if you're extremely wealthy, all these different things. I feel like it really comes down to how you treat other people. And if you have an inclusion mindset, then you're looking at life through eyes that are level with other people's eyes. And when you include everybody, it's a different feeling. It's a different way that you carry yourself and walk around, because it's no longer about like, oh, you have this and I have this, so that makes us different. It's more or less like, we all kind of struggle the same way through it. So I think that's super powerful. I mean, I could totally agree with doing something like that. And I think it's cool that people, transgender, homosexual or straight, whatever it is, that they're all there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think really what it comes down to is just coming from a place of understanding. We come from we're in a very binary world. There's either right or wrong, straight or gay. And so I think it's divisive, honestly, like Democrat, Republican. It's a system set up to make us fail because we're either one or the other, and we can't be both for some reason. And I think that's the cool part about inclusion, is that it forces you to come from a place of understanding with people instead of looking at them as, okay, you're either this or you're this. Like, why do we have to follow those traditional roles of like this very binary sense of self?
Yeah.
It's the worst I've ever seen. I feel like, the sense of division. It feels like, are you on, red team or blue team? Are you on this team or that team? How about we're just team everybody?
Exactly.
When do we start caring about everybody? We talk about all the time. Social media, I feel like, is pretty divisive.
Yes.
Especially with the younger demographic. I mean, I didn't have a lot of that when I grew up, We didn't have it when we grew up. MySpace was just coming out when I hit, I don't know, middle school.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little ahead of you there, but
you're a little older than me. So, but the fact remains, now you got people committing suicide over Facebook posts.
Not getting enough likes and
not getting enough likes. I mean, this is a pretty serious issue.
Oh yeah, we're actually doing an argument unit. We just did a whole unit on should teens and kids play competitive sports, and I had them write an essay. And now we're doing a unit where you can pick literally any topic that you want to discuss. And one of the things is cyberbullying. Because the world of social media kind of just destroys that connection between humans.
Yeah.
You're behind a screen and you're just like, oh, I can say whatever I want, no big deal. But you don't realize, like, hey, you're hurting somebody.
Yeah.
That's right there. I had a kid today that was like, oh, I cyberbully sometimes. It's no big deal. And I was like, is it though? Like, it feels like it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And like, you're just not putting that thought into it where you're thinking about another human being.
And he was kind of bragging about it to you?
Yeah. He was like, it's fun sometimes.
Wow.
Well,
that
so
sucks.
that's kind of, I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm happy we could kind of transition it because, sometimes conversations go and then the questions don't fit, but now it does. So I wonder if bullies, people who do bullying, if they have more issues in their personal life than people who don't do bullying.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so for sure.
Bullying comes from a place of not knowing yourself. Being cruel to anyone comes from a place of deep-seated brokenness. Something happened to you where you feel like you need to be full of hate rather than full of love.
Yeah.
in my studies with teaching, it's come from trauma. Usually, the kids that are the most full of hate are kids that have experienced really intense trauma in their lives, and they don't know how to work through it, and so they just project it on everyone else.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it too is learned behavior.
Yes.
They would go home at night and their dad would get a little bit hammered and take their day out on the kid. Make him feel like a piece of shit, and then he feels like he needs to go to school and push his fellow co-students around, because that's what he knows. That's what he knows. I mean, that's a lot of what I dealt with. I know what I learned when I was bullied back in my middle school and high school years. All these kids basically came from a broken household.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talk a lot. I talk a lot with my other teachers about you have to get so much training to be a teacher, and to get even more money, you have to continue to do your training. Like, to get a raise, I need a master's degree or whatever. But like, you don't need any of that to be a parent. You just kind of just have a kid.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, there's no prerequisite at all.
So I'm sorry for all those people out there that are just trying to pop the little ones out, but I almost feel like there should be a pre-test.
Yes.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Yeah, like you need to, like, are you guys fit to have kids?
Yeah.
Or training, at least, once you have the kid.
Or something, because so many kids are brought into these broken homes, and that's just what they know life as, and it's because they're with selfish parents that do not have their offspring's best intent in mind. And when you have that situation, it's going to be extremely difficult for the child to mentally overcome that, to understand it for what it is, and then overcome that to become something that their parents aren't. Because we're all subject to our environments, and that's just part of life. But the unique thing is that we all have a choice. But you have to know that, and if you know that you have a choice, then you get to choose who you want to be, and then that's how you can change what's around you, is by being true to yourself. And it's just it's maybe there should be a test.
I think there should be a test, or some sort of, even after the fact. Look, I have to go through a background check and take a pistol safety course in order to fire a couple rounds down the range.
Right.
But I can,
Very good point.
I could squeeze out a couple children, no questions asked, really.
Yeah.
And some people say that's because of the Lord, and if that's your belief, that's great. But at the same time, we have a lot of people squeezing out children. I don't think should be having kids.
My opinion is, like, when people experience trauma, it sticks with you. If you aren't willing or able to break that cycle, you're going to perpetuate it to the next generation. And at the very least, I think parents should be able to analyze their own, any human really should do this, be able to analyze their own traumas and say, hey, here's like where my life kind of went wrong, and here's how I'm going to fix it, and make it so that, like, I don't perpetuate that to the next generation of people. And it happens all the time, where no one is willing to confront their demons, and so they just continue on the cycle, and their kids inherit those demons too.
Well, I think it reminds me of saying, it's people do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure.
Absolutely.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you?
Absolutely.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, but it's true, though. Think about it. People
Look
do
at all
more-
the distractions that we have. I mean, we have television, we have social media. People, like, it's hard to confront your demons. Let's not ignore that. Like, it's hard.
It is.
It's the hardest thing you could possibly do.
Because
and
you
so
have
people
to break
avoid
yourself.
it. Yeah, you have to force yourself to do it. And if you don't, you're very much likely to just ignore it and never confront yourself, which is almost worse.
And doing that, though, is a long, cold, hard road. And you have to endure that cold road. And there's going to be potholes, and there's going to be hills. And sometimes you'll be coasting down a hill, and sometimes you'll have to go up it. I mean, I've talked about it a lot on here. The opiate epidemic is very heavy in this country. I fell victim to that for a long time. And after acknowledging to myself that I was an addict, and I had to acknowledge that to myself and actually admit, like, this is not good, this is pulling me down. It took like 4 to 5 years after I acknowledged it for me to keep disappointing myself over and over and over again, and to get beat up by abusing the substance constantly, and then knowing that it was wrong. It took me like 4 to 5 years to get to a point to where now, like, I appreciate sobriety a lot, and I'm thankful that I have money in my bank account and I'm able to do other things. But it took that long, hard look at myself and what I was doing, because for the longest time I was like, oh, this is helping me excel. Oh, it helps me feel better. Like, I'm good on this. Like, but you have to look at yourself and acknowledge these things in order to actually overcome them and become stronger than it. And it's never going to be easy. You have to expect it to be hard. You know?
I think it's not just acknowledging it either. Like, you took steps.
Yeah.
To help you get past that. You didn't just acknowledge it and then be like, oh, whatever, screw it, I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
It's not just acknowledging. It's you have to take these positive steps for yourself and attempt to get past it. Like, I think that's kind of the cool thing about therapy. And I think that there's like a stigma about therapy in America, especially. Like, I'm an individual, I don't need therapy. It's whatever, I can heal myself. But can you? And do you have to? Like, why should we have to heal ourselves? Why can't we just ask for help sometimes? There's nothing wrong with that.
I agree. I mean, if it wasn't for my friend group that I had, they were my therapists. All my closest friends, and letting them know what was wrong and that I knew that I had these issues, telling everybody that, and then my true friends started holding me accountable and would follow up with me like weekly. Hey, how we doing? How we feeling? You know, and like I couldn't have done it by myself. So I completely agree with that. There's nothing weak about talking to somebody. You know, it's super important.
Yeah, the help's available. You know, we're at a time where mental health awareness is at an all-time high. You know, I struggle with anger problems most of my life, and I finally, tackled some of that in my mid-20s. You know, I used to fly off the handle over the stupidest shit, really. Stupid shit. I would just lose my mind, for no reason. No reason. And, a lot of that came from what I learned in therapy was, a lot of childhood issues and depression and things like that. And you got to own it. Step one is owning it. Like an alcoholic, if they want to get better, the first thing you got to do is admit you have a problem, right?
Yes.
Then you have to take the steps to want to get better.
Absolutely.
And it's not an easy task to do, but,
I think an important part to note about that, too, is, like, there's a wealth disparity when it comes to therapy. So I'm talking about, like, my low-income kids. First of all, culturally, some cultures don't believe in it. And some of those cultures that don't believe in it also can't afford it. I have a lot of kids. Most of my kids are on Medicare. They don't have any kind of private insurance. And so that's kind of a thing with them is, we're trying to help on that school level, but we can only do so much. I'm just a teacher. I'm not certified.
Well, yeah, and you got 30 of them.
Yeah, and I have 70 of them, actually.
Oh, wow.
I have 3 different classes, and so total I've got 70 kids.
Damn.
I have a kid who just transferred into my class from a different school, and he lost his mom to cancer in December. And he just got, thrown into my classroom. And I don't know what to do. Like, I am not trained on that.
Yeah.
And so the counselor's working with him, but the counselor also has, like, 400 kids.
And does the counselor work with the teachers as well, or?
The communication could definitely be better.
Yeah.
They try to. But when you have so many kids, your caseload is just so extreme that it's really hard to sometimes. You have all these new kids coming in, and you're not just a counselor. You're also scheduling and coordinating and doing all these other non-counselor type things that, like, it gets kind of lost in translation too.
Wow.
I could see that. I mean, to be adaptable, that's the thing. And like, I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but I've accepted that problems are a part of life, and so as I continue my journey, I'm going to encounter more problems, and I expect that. And so it's like, I feel like with that kind of mindset, it doesn't throw me off my track or my path, because I expect problems to happen. I expect there to be hard times where I feel down or whatever. And maybe it's, they say knowledge is power, and it's cliche and everything, but it's a true statement. The more you know, and the more you know about how your mind works and how to accept issues, I feel like that's the biggest thing, is overcoming issues. Like, how do you handle the bad days?
That's actually a really good point. There's this psychologist, her name is Carol Dweck. She talks about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So fixed mindset is, I'm going to fail and I'll never get better. Growth mindset is, okay, I failed. That's a lesson for me.
Yes.
How can I grow from that lesson? And she said, more than IQ or anything else, that's what makes people succeed, is you either have that fixed mindset or you have that growth mindset. And, like, you can flow in between those two things in your life. Like, I think we tend to forget that our brain is very malleable. We can learn anything we want to. It's a choice that we're making ourselves. We can either learn this or we can believe that we're not going to learn it. And so that's a huge part of education too, is teaching kids, like, yeah, maybe you sucked at your essay this time, but what are you going to do better next time? How can you improve? You're always going to improve.
It's a valid point. It's always about innovating and improving, learning from your mistakes, getting a little bit better. It's tough though when you're at that age, I feel like. It took me many years to own mistakes and want to do better. I limped my way through school. I feel like I was a C student.
Yeah.
I
was cool with even getting a D because I was still passing.
So you were just trying. Yeah. I mean, there was things I enjoyed, topics I enjoyed more than others. Mm-hmm. I didn't always enjoy doing I failed biology. That was the only class I ever failed. I'd take it again. Finally passed it. Not very well, but you got to apply yourself. And when you learn that, at what point in life, I don't know. But I think what you're doing, that's terrific, by trying to encourage these kids and show them some different, different approaches to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress. I mean, by the time I get these kids, they've been in school for 7 years.
Yeah.
And so the mindsets that they get in their first 6 years of schooling still define them. And so I'm trying to break some of those cycles. And it's hard, and it doesn't always work.
Sure. Well, and they're at a point where, hormones are raging.
Yeah, they're not thinking about school.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, who's my next, relationship? Who am I fighting with today?
Right,
like, I have kids coming in all the time that are like, I just fought with my friend, and they suck, and blah, blah, blah. They're talking crap about me. And I'm like, okay, well, ultimately, as an adult, I know who cares. Mm-hmm. But, like, as a kid, when you're in it, it means a lot to you.
It does.
But I don't know. I mean, you're trying to make this little impact. But it's also, like, I think realistically, we need to understand, like, school's not exactly what it should be. We're teaching subject areas that most kids aren't going to do their entire lives. Like, you talked about failing biology.
Yeah.
I haven't used that, like, in a real practical job sense my entire life. Same with math. Like, didn't really use anything beyond, like, 7th grade math.
Yeah, basic math, yep.
So, like, how are we failing our kids by what we're trying to teach them in school? Are we teaching them the right things that they actually need?
So do you feel like like how we were talking about the whole district curriculum, and like this stuff that has to be taught, like, could it be beneficial? And I don't know how all this works. Like, so I really don't know how any of this works. But if you can set it up so, let's say, like, as you're kind of going through middle school, like, you've learned a lot of the basics, then you can start to pick and choose, like, the courses you take. Like, you don't have courses that you have to take, but you have courses that you choose to take. Is that a thing at all? Or?
So we have tech schools where that kind of happens. It's not very common. We have some charter schools that try to do that. But, mainstream education is governed by the government, and so there's very rigorous, not often very educated laws that are passed down to us that don't actually make sense for our kids. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we get in trouble, is, like, the federal government is passing down laws that don't actually fit what our society needs anymore. But there hasn't been, like, an education reform since that started existing in America. We're still very kind of like factory-based education. We're like, I'm going to spit out all these duplicates of each other. I would love for that to happen, though. That's exactly what should happen. Some kids just don't care about science or math or English or whatever.
Yeah.
That's okay. You don't have to. Like, after you learn those skills, shouldn't you be able to do what you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like that would just create a healthier, more well-rounded society for us in general, but we refuse to do that for some reason.
Well, I guess playing devil's advocate, like, when you're developing, like, maybe what you think you want then isn't what you actually want in the future, though, either.
Oh, for sure.
So it's like, how do you find that balance? And I feel like there should be a whole section on mindset training, like to help people with their mentality, their mindset, how they actually think and deal with problems and stuff, and how do you adapt to things, and what do you say? Like, one thing that I've been focusing on, and I'm a grown adult now, so obviously I've had time to think about all this, but I really do pick and choose how I structure a sentence when I say it, because I want to have an intent, and I want to project my words and thoughts in a specific way, so it's not just ribble rabble. Like, I want to say things in a certain way where it has meaning, it has reason, there's conviction behind it,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like, I guess in the middle of saying that, I kind of lost my point there, but it's just important, speak your words with the end in mind.
Right.
Before you start talking to somebody about something, what is your end goal? What is the purpose of the sentence? And I feel like that is an important thing to kind of think about as an adult or a child, because we all have to talk. We all talk to communicate. And if you think about when you're saying a sentence, what you want to accomplish with that sentence, then it could, have more power to it.
I agree with
Absolutely.
that. So here's my thing with that is developmentally, kids don't have that part of them yet.
Okay.
They're very much reactionary. As you develop and the older you get, which is why you're saying the older you got, the more that became important. That happened for a reason. Because when you're a kid, you're very impulsive. Like your id, your little ego, is really the one that's driving you. It's not until like your early 20s that you start developing that cognitive ability to even be able to consider the things that you say. And so I think schools are trying to like gear kids towards that. But at the same time, cognitively, you gotta let them be kids sometimes. Like, they're not always gonna be there. And I think, and I struggle with this as a teacher sometimes too, is I want you to be like exactly where I think you should be, but you're you, and I'm me. I'm a 28-year-old adult. I'm gonna think differently than you do. And so I can't force you to be that higher level that I want you to be at.
Yeah.
As frustrating as it is for me all the time.
That's tough to connect because you're dealing with seventh grade.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's
12 and 13.
12, 13-year-olds? That's a tough age.
That's the worst age.
Is it the worst?
It's the worst age. I mean, for me, even as a kid, looking back.
I was super awkward at that age.
Oh,
I was way awkward.
That's
for sure.
hard. That's a hard age.
You don't know what, you're, when I was 12, 13, though, again, we didn't have a lot of the social connections that we have now and the other distractions that we have. How much of that is in the classroom? Do you see a lot of, what's the school's policies with kids being on Facebook while they're in class and all this other stuff?
Probably a big no-no.
Oh, yeah. I don't let them on phones while they're in my class.
Are you,
So
do you have the bucket where they all put their phones in?
Are you responsible for that? You can say, hey, guys, shut it down, but what happens when they...
I'm unclear on how that works, honestly. Most of the kids at this age just know to be off their phone. I have like one, maybe every class or so that tries it. They're usually a new kid that's trying to test the boundaries. But for the most part, the kids are just like, okay, I can't be on my phone. I get that.
Yeah.
good they
Facebook, I mean, there's
it.
Wi-Fi, and so like Facebook is not authorized on our Chromebooks.
Oh, good.
That's good.
So they would have to be essentially on the network in order to access it. Do you ever see them like under the table looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
the phone? Yeah.
Kids are so funny because they think that they can hide it. But like, I can see you're not looking at what you're supposed to be looking at. I'm not dumb. Like,
Right.
clearly you're on your
And
phone.
you hid stuff when you were in school, so,
Yeah.
so you know how
yeah,
it's done.
like you're not that clever. Like you think you are, but you're definitely not.
Yeah. So I think there should be a class on social media impact.
I think we're at
Is
that
there-
point.
Is there such teachings like where at a young age they teach like how all these artificial likes and artificial friends are counterproductive? You're not actually looking at people in the face and hearing their like. Is there curriculum on that, or can you?
We try in any way that we can.
Yeah.
However, like I said before, the curriculum is very scripted. It's teaching you skills, not life lessons. And that's the problem with American education is we're so focused on those skills to meet those standards-based tests, to be able to prove something.
'Cause
I don't
that
even know
keeps your
what.
job.
Yeah,
like
it's
the test
insane.
scores keep your job.
Like
right?
if you look at America versus any other developed nation, we're so far behind in education because we have these like rudimentary ideas of what education should be. It makes no sense. But no, we don't actually have a class on that. Like in my teaching of literacy, I try to incorporate it in any way that I can, but it's definitely not like something that we explicitly teach.
Huh. And you know, I could kind of agree with what you said is like, you know, you have this curriculum that you need to hit and these test scores and you know, that's like huge. Like how, because then the school gets more funding if the test scores are higher.
Yeah.
Like things of that. And so when I was in high school, like I was actually approached because I had a lower GPA and they actually asked me to go to an alternative school because I was bringing, they didn't say it like that, but because I was bringing the overall GPA down. And that made me leave that school, and then I just got my GED because I was like, these people aren't invested in me for the right reasons.
You're a statistic to them.
Yeah.
Not a person.
Yeah, and people can feel that.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I mean, we have way too many tests in our school district. And every time we have to test, kids just shut down.
Yeah.
They know it's not for them. They know they're not benefiting from it. Like, we just took an interim test, and those actually do kind of help us, but it was like 12 multiple choice questions and then an essay. And a lot of the kids just wrote like 2 sentences for their essay. Because
Really?
Why should I care? Like, I'm doing this thing for these adults. Why?
Yeah.
Who gives a crap? Like, I don't care. I don't even care as a teacher. I'm just like, okay, it's cool, I guess. But like, I know the data's not accurate because kids aren't trying, because they realize that nobody cares except for these weird adults that are like obsessed with statistics for some reason.
Well, and that's why it's so important what you're doing with the whole that inclusion group. Is that what it was?
GSA, yeah, Gay Straight Alliance, yeah.
GSA, yeah. So GSA, that's why that's so important, because then you actually take these kids out of that curriculum-based learning experience, and even though it's after hours, they're doing something that they want to do, and that is a place where they're actually learning about themselves. You know,
yeah.
That's super. I think that's so cool that you're doing, like, that is monumental, I feel like, in helping the development of these young adults to become grown adults.
Oh, I would agree. You got to give them a place to go to where they want to be. You know, we all knew we had to be at this class at this hour. When they have an option to be included in something that they feel passionate about or included about and can be themselves around other people experiencing different things, that's important, I feel like. That way you don't feel like you're just another, you know, cow in the herd, just getting pushed
another
through.
brick in the wall.
Another brick in the
So
wall.
true.
You know? When you can establish that, I think you're going to be able to connect with kids a little bit better. I'm not real good with children personally. You know, I feel awkward around them. I don't know how to connect with them real well.
The same way.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, how's it feel? So when you're standing in front of the room, you know, and you're talking to all these kids, you know, what does that feel like?
God, I used to hate public speaking. I was terrified of being social in any kind of situation, even just my personal life. And I literally, I forced myself to get better at it. I practiced it a lot. And when I'm with the kids, the first week is hard. But I don't know. They love you and you love them, and you develop this relationship. And like at this point, I've been doing this for 2 months now, and I'll joke with them and screw around and make fun of them and just have a dialogue, and it's totally comfortable. I feel great with it. I have no issues anymore. I used to, I mean, like I said, I hated public speaking, but it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like I'm just hanging out with a bunch of pretty cool kids, and we're trying to learn something together, and sometimes we're successful, and sometimes they're pieces of shit, and we're not successful.
Well, I mean, that's got to be the reality of it. You're dealing with 12 and 13-year-olds again. So sometimes they're going to take in that information. Sometimes they want to learn. I'm sure you get those students that want to apply themselves 100%.
Oh, yeah,
trying
of course.
to be, you know, shining stars and all that kind of stuff. That's certainly, I had to be so passionate about whatever topic I was learning about to get that into it. I didn't like when I felt like things, like, especially I did not do good in language arts, having, you know, forced to read these books and do reading comprehension and do reports on them. That
Right.
wasn't my thing. But when I got dialed into a topic that I felt like I could, you know, really enjoy and be a part of, I loved it. You know, creating things, being hands-on, I feel like that helped a little bit. Well, I mean, how different is it from when you were in 7th grade to now? What do you feel like has changed, and what do you do differently than how you were taught in 7th grade?
I think it might just be my own teaching style, but you know, I feel like I enjoy it a lot more when I'm just talking to my kids. I know as a teacher, you're supposed to be like, oh, your content area, you know, I love teaching English, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They're going to learn all these things, but if they don't like you, they're not listening to you. Like, have you ever had a teacher that just, you were just like, you're a piece of crap. Like, I hate you.
Or you're just like, you're so
and you're like,
boring.
you just shut down. And
Yeah.
you're like, screw you. Like,
I'm
I
gonna
don't care
fall
about any
asleep
of
in
this.
class.
Yep.
And so much of teaching is kind of just acting. And you're just like, you know, projecting this persona that's just upbeat and excited, and I'm going to connect with you, and I'm going to be your friend. And I mean, not friend, but, you know.
Yeah, kind of like a
good adult
helpful
figure.
role
Yeah,
model.
yeah, exactly. And so I think I missed that when I was in school. Was I had maybe 2 or 3 teachers that I felt like, hey, I can connect with this person as a human. It goes far beyond just like, oh, they're teaching you a subject. Because ultimately, how much do you even remember from 7th grade? Where like you learned content area stuff. I remember my teachers though.
I remember the feelings of 2nd grade more than, 7th grade more than anything. Like, you know, like how was I feeling internally? And so, you know, if we do have some younger listeners in there that are, you know, in high school right now, and you're in there grinding, and you're having to learn this curriculum that you're not going to use after high school, and you're aware of this, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Because after I got my GED and, you know, graduate, you got to graduate. You have to do that. But I started going to college, and in college, it was just so amazing because I then could start focusing on things that I knew or that I wanted to follow. And then learning became a great experience because you choose what you're going to learn, and you choose where you focus your time and energy. And college, in my mind, was one of the best things ever. Like learning things in college is so there is light at the end of the tunnel, and sure, you got to pay for that, but you know, if you buckle down and really, really work hard in high school, then you could get a scholarship. So that's the reason behind why you should try to excel at where you're at now, is to better yourself in the future. And there is light at the end of the tunnel.
I think that's good advice. It's for me, it was tough because, you know, I was looking at the military at the time. I didn't know if I was going to go to college. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, so many of my buddies that when I finally did hit 18, I just started working. You know, I was doing working full time. I always wanted to go to college. And I saw my buddies, and it was like, you know, what are you studying? What do you want to go be? And they're like, oh, I don't know yet. And that always kind of confused me. I mean, I guess it was one of those things that when you came from a rich family or something, they put you in a 4-year school no matter what, just to be there. But these guys didn't really know what they wanted to study. And I guess that maybe that's tough at 18.
Yeah, I actually, I went to college 18 and 19, and then I quit for 3 years. And one end I knew I wanted to teach, but I also didn't know that I wanted to teach. I was 18. Like, who knows what the hell you want when you're 18?
Yeah.
And so I quit. And then I came back to it when I was sure that's what I wanted. I think the pressure to know what you want to do when you're 18 and you've barely experienced
What you do
anything.
in between? Sorry to cut you short there.
I worked. I worked at Walmart when I was 18 until I was like 20. And then I got a great job at National Jewish that I just left to be a teacher. And I was an administrative assistant, and I made really good money. And I worked with really intelligent people, and it was great. And it pushed me to be better. And honestly, what led me back into education was how passionate they were. All these doctors that I worked for, they were like, education's the best. And they were so passionate about what they were doing. And I was like, I want that. That's what I want to do. I want to do something that I'm passionate about.
Yes.
Like, fuck everything else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's what led me into going to college and finishing college.
Yeah.
Because if I hadn't had that, I don't think I would have cared. And it's about doing something you care about. But how do we know what we care about when we're 18 and we've been exposed to biology, chemistry, math, and English, and like social studies?
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing compared to like all the stuff that's out there in the real world.
That's true.
It's a very small little pool that you're just like, okay, well, what if I don't care about any of this?
Yeah, that's a good point, because, you know, most of these kids in school are, you know, commoners like me. Came from a kind of blue-collar family, you know, just trying to make it through public school. Didn't have a family history of doctors, lawyers. I wasn't pushed down any sort of those fields. I think that always kind of plays into, you know, where the parents gear their children towards. You know, we come from a long family of doctors and lawyers, so we're going to send you to that kind of school.
I almost don't agree with that, though.
Yeah,
because then you're pushing your offspring into doing what you do, like follow my same footsteps. Like, how's innovation going to happen if you're just doing what everybody else does?
Well, and that's how I think you end up with so many unhappy individuals in that situation, when your parents say, you know, we're going to put you through this, that, and the other. And that's great if they're going to support you and all that. But, you know, Megan's right. I mean, it takes a while to figure out what you really want out of this life and what you want to dedicate your time and your passion to.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's like a pipeline of you need to be in high school and then you immediately have to go to college. When I was in high school, they didn't tell you there was another path. They were just like, college, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all you have left. Like, do college or else you suck.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the issue with education. I don't know why colleges aren't funding us to do this. So I'm not really sure like why high schools are like, oh, I'm going to push you to college. That's not always going to be the choice for everyone. And that's okay. Like, do whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
I think that high schools definitely miss out on like the whole idea of like, we're all just different people. And some of us, college works. Some of us, it doesn't. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that, you know?
It's true.
I would agree. I never went to college. I didn't do any community college, never did anything after high school. You know, I got my diploma, I graduated in 2007.
We can all tell, Kevin.
Your grammar, though.
I'm joking with you.
It might show a little bit. I am wearing a NASCAR hoodie. Who knows? Who knows? Are the stereotypes true? I don't know. But, you know, I was torn. I didn't know if I wanted to do the military. I didn't know if I wanted to do college. But after high school, I moved out here, you know, to Colorado and just started working out in the field. So I never really had an opportunity. I always wanted to, but I just never really pursued that, you know, that situation to go back to school. I would do it.
But are you successful?
I mean, you know, I think that I make it work. You know, I pay my bills. I've been with the same company for 12 years. So am I successful? I think I'm happy. So.
But what qualify as success? What does success even mean in the first place?
Can I
That's
answer
true.
that question?
That's actually a great question.
So I feel like what qualifies as success is happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And, you
Exactly,
know,
I agree.
And if Kevin is happy, then I would say you're successful.
Yes.
I've always thought, like, on my deathbed, if I'm about to die, if I was to look back at my life and say, you know what, I was happy and I lived a good life, then that's a successful life to me.
Agreed.
You know, money is not everything. You know, and
I make none of it, so.
well, and you have
true.
and you have a great aura to you. You know, you have a good energy to you, and it's really not all about money. And college is important, but you're never going to learn more than you will in the field, in the trenches, actually doing it. You know?
You're never going to learn more from anything than you do yourself. If you just, like, stop taking on the pressures of the world around you, like, the most you can learn is just from you. Just sit with yourself and say, hey, this is what makes me happy, and I'm going to go for it. I don't care what anyone else thinks, and that's okay. Like, we're just so caught up, I feel like, in impressing the world around us.
Yeah.
Yep, I would agree with
But
that.
the happiness, the success, that comes directly from who you are and how happy and successful you feel like you are as a person.
That is
Yep.
true.
And I think that varies per person. I mean,
Yes.
you know, there's such a program, especially now more, and going back forever, I guess. I think religion, you know, mainstream media has a lot to do with that, the way that people are programmed, almost propaganda-ish. You know, you got to do this. You have to go to your 4-year and or private school. Then you got to go to college and or join the military.
And then you got to get married.
Then you got to get married. Then you got to live on a cul-de-sac and have a couple kids.
Yeah.
It's so structured. You know, I feel like some people fall into that, and if that works for you, then that's terrific.
Yeah, and that's what you want, yeah.
People need to be happy, but I think some of that, you know, affects people's ability to maybe want to do some things that they want to do because they feel like, oh, time's running out. You know, everybody else is doing this. I'm not doing that. How much of that is a factor?
So true. I've known so many people that are like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, just because they're basing where they're supposed to be on where everyone else is.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, how do you know where you're supposed to be if you don't just stop talking for a second and figure it out?
Yeah.
Like, we're all on different paths. However, the world around us makes us feel like we should be on the same path. And that's never going to be the case. It doesn't work. Like, logically, those two things just don't line up with each other. And I think that's a lot of where our turmoil and self-hatred and anxiety and depression really kind of lies. Is here's the bar of where I'm supposed to be, and here's where I feel like I am. And that's not fair to anybody.
No, it isn't, because, you know, society has set the standard again. You know, you got to be at this bar, like you said, and you feel like you're down here. But if down here works for you and you're enjoying what's happening down here,
Yeah.
who cares who's up there, right?
Yeah. So I mean, to shed a little bit more light on this, it's important to live in the moment, enjoy the moment, but you still want to build for the future. You know, it's good to find happiness within the minute that you're in, within the hour that you're enjoying, but you still want to begin with the end in mind. Like, you know, and humans inherently, I feel like we are goal-orientated creatures. Like we get a goal accomplished, and then we so often just move right on to the next goal. So it's also important for us to remember what we have accomplished. It's important to remember to pat ourselves on the back like, wow, I did all that. Because too often I feel like people are just constantly goal setting, and they forget to tell themselves like, wow, you've done a great job. You've done all these different things. And so like, remember to just give yourself a pat on the back for what you have accomplished, and enjoy the moment that you're in, and keep setting goals for the future, but give yourself credit for what you've done. Enjoy getting it done. You know, I think that's very important to remember.
I agree. I mean, any like mindfulness self-help books that I've ever read have said, focus on the present moment. That's the most important moment. But when you're focusing on that present moment, you're more likely to build for your future anyways.
Yeah.
So like, just being okay with yourself right now will help you figure out what your future should look like for you.
Yeah.
And so I think that the present moment builds on everything else around you. It's accepting your past, being okay with your present, and then you naturally kind of build towards the future with that.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could give humanity some advice to like help them become better for tomorrow, what would your advice be for humanity?
Meditate.
Yeah?
Yes. Breathe.
Tell people how to meditate. I don't know if everybody knows.
So the funny thing about meditation is that, as I've noticed this, especially in education, as adults, we think way too much. We need to calm the hell down. We overanalyze everything, including meditation. We're all like, oh man, I can't meditate because I can't make it stop, and I can't do this and this and this. But meditation is not about doing something. It's just about sitting with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, there's no rules to meditation. Yes, of course, your thoughts are going to go insane. So what? Let them. Because eventually, biologically, your lungs are going to calm you down. Your breath is going to deepen. and the thoughts will eventually go away. We try too hard, even with meditation. So many adults are like, I can't meditate. It's too hard. I don't know what to do.
That's how I
I'm
feel.
struggling. Yeah, that's a lot of people. And like the key that unlocked meditation for me was to realize that stop trying so hard. Like, I love Parks and Rec. And
Great show.
I know. There's one episode
see a
where
couple.
Ron goes to this meditation center with this guy Chris, and Chris is always like overactive, and he's like, I'm trying so hard and I can't do it. And Ron's just like, I just fucking sat there and stared at the wall. And Chris was like, how can I do that? And Ron was like, stop trying so hard. Like, calm down for a second.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think that would help us. Like, just sit. Like, when was the last time you just sat and did nothing for 15 minutes? You didn't distract yourself by a book or TV or whatever. When's the last time you just sat and stared or shut your eyes or something without trying to go to bed, you know?
Yeah, and without like mindfully trying to actually, meditate. Like I might do that for only 3 minutes or so.
Right, we're terrified of being in our own brains because our brains feel like they don't ever shut down.
Right.
But we're wired to do that. Once our brains realize that we're cognitively trying to improve that process, they'll shut down on their own. Like the neurons will slow down for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And it's natural. We spend so much time overthinking it that we can't achieve it. If you just chilled, like sat with yourself, not even closed your eyes, just sat and stared at the wall or whatever. Like, do that. That's a starting place.
Yeah, I remember seeing this one thing that it was really interesting. It said like there's like a small group of people, like under 10% of people find entertainment within their own thoughts.
Yeah.
And that means no music, no social media looking at anything. Like you're literally just thinking and finding entertainment in that. And ever since I read that line, I've been trying to practice that. Like, how can I make my thoughts entertain me right now? And that's not quite meditation, but I totally agree. You know, it's important to slow down, stop overthinking all the little things, and just kind of being one with it, you know?
What I think is, why should our thoughts always entertain us?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we so focused on entertainment in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
What if our thoughts were just nasty sometimes, and we just sat with that and accepted it? That's really what we're running from, is the nasty thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We try to become entertained because we're afraid of the nasty thoughts.
Yeah.
But the nasty thoughts are a part of us,
That's
and they're
true.
not going to go away.
Yeah, and you got to own it.
Unless you own it, yeah.
You have to own it. And that's tough. You know, it takes a long time to get to that point. You know, we're so conditioned now to feel like it's supposed to always be rainbows and butterflies that you got to take the bad days with the good days. Meditating is something that I really want to get into. You know, we've talked about this on this show a couple times, and I struggle with, I don't know where to start. You know, people say watch a YouTube video, do some breathing. You know, Arthur, he talked to me about the 4-4-4 thing with, you know, the controlling your breathing. Breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds.
I'll make it real simple. Just sit down and close your eyes for 5 minutes. Set a timer.
And then just, what do you do with your mind?
Nothing.
You just don't think about it.
Let it happen.
Just let
your mind's going to go insane. That's what's going to happen naturally. There's no way around that. It's going to go nuts.
Okay.
So
but if you do 5 minutes every day, it'll go less nuts every single day because you're training your mind something differently. You're trying too hard.
So,
don't try. Just sit there. Let the thoughts flow. It's okay.
And do it consistently.
Yeah, it's the consistency that's the key. It's not the fact like you're never going to on your first meditation transcend. Like it's never going to happen.
And so the transcending, okay, because I've like read about proper meditation. I feel like I've gotten kind of close when I was doing it regularly. Like you said, I was doing it regularly. You can leave your body and like travel anywhere in the universe, like and see it, and like you leave yourself, you can look down at yourself and like travel the world. You can like go anywhere, and I'm like, I've heard that in a proper meditation that like that's what comes of it, is you're able to like your unconscious like leaves your physical, and then it can travel and go places. Like I've heard of it described like that.
Like an out-of-body experience?
It's called, I think it's called transcendental meditation or something like that. That's very rare. Like it doesn't happen normally. As people, just normal people like us, we're probably not going to get there. That's okay.
Yeah.
It does exist. And I've read about that too. I've never done it before.
Yeah.
The most I've done is 20 minutes of meditation. Then I wake up and I'm like, okay, I feel at peace. Cool. Like I feel better.
I've heard that if you can meditate properly for like 30 minutes, then it's equivalent to sleeping a full sleep cycle.
That makes
like
sense.
it rejuvenates you.
Yeah, it does.
That does make sense.
Yeah, I took it's called what's it called? I don't know. I took a 3-day workshop on meditation, and it was like a 4-hour course per day, and you spent 45 minutes in this deep meditation session. And you're exhausted while you're doing it. It's kind of interesting. Like, you're exhausted while you're doing it, and then once you come out of it, you're like, man, I feel so good. I'm on top of the world. Remember the first time I did it, I had just gotten through a heartbreak, and when I went to my car that night, it was like a weight had been lifted off of me. I didn't even know I had it.
Yeah.
And it just got lifted off of me. And I like cried in my car, because just sitting there and just being with yourself, it's so important. And we neglect that so much.
It's true.
And like, we're not realizing how many burdens we're carrying that we don't need to carry. And so transcendental meditation is really cool. But honestly, if you just sit with yourself for like 5 or 10 minutes, that's still enough.
Yeah.
I don't think there's such thing as proper meditation. Like, we're not gurus, like, we're not Buddhist monks or whatever trying to like transcend to the next life. Like, it's enough for us just to sit there for sometimes, you know?
That's good advice.
I agree with that. And I do want to apply some of that. I want to get into being able to do meditation. You know, we've talked about it before. I need something, because, you know, I have so many things going on day to day, as we all do.
Yeah.
You know, we're all grown adults. We have a lot of things on our plate. And if we can find a place to meditate for a minute and just kind of clear your head, it's crucial. You know, it's almost like when you go into your browsing history and hit clear cache and clear out stuff. I feel like that's what meditation
It
is.
really is.
You know, you got to clear that stuff out. Otherwise, it just builds up and you run out a little bit of, you know, RAM.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's crucial.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly, if I could stress anything tonight, it would be stop trying so hard. Like, just go sit for 5 minutes and let the thoughts happen. It's okay. They're going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
I will tell you that right now. Like, the second you meditate, you're not going to be able to shut yourself up. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not about forcing yourself to clear your mind. It's just about sitting with your thoughts and not getting distracted from them so that you can work through them.
That makes sense.
It does.
And it's powerful. It's simple. It's simple, and it's
It really
powerful.
is. We make it so complicated. Adults, that's why I love working with kids. Kids are just so straightforward and to the point. Adults, we try way too hard. We need to calm down.
Yeah, it's true. It really is. Kids, you know, they're like, they haven't really experienced a lot of, they haven't been, you know, rolled hard and put away wet, or whatever that saying is. You know, they haven't been dragged through the ringer yet. Yeah, they have their own problems that they're dealing with, and those shouldn't be ignored. So that's where mine started at a young age, you know, right around 7th grade. That's when I started dealing with a lot of issues. It made me lash out, you know, looking for attention, you know, doing the depression thing. I was put away when I was, 7th, 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. I'm trying to remember now. You know, I went through a pretty serious situation. I was put into a 5-day psychiatric evaluation, you know, because the state labeled me a bit suicidal. And that was a tough deal. That was a tough situation for my family, myself, and you know, this was back in 2003, 2002, somewhere in there. Can't remember when. Doesn't much matter. But the fact remains is that mental issues shouldn't be ignored. You know, that experience changed my life for sure. And kids now, you know, it's tough. I can't imagine the differences. Like I said, I didn't have social media and a lot of those other influences. I dealt with it that way. It came out as anger later in my life. I had to get to a point where I could own it and want to get better with it. And it's not an easy thing to do. No matter what anybody's struggling with, it's not an easy thing to accept and want to get better with. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's powerful words there, you know, and it's, you know, to keep things simple is ideal for all of us. And to, like you said, to not overcomplicate it, to not overthink it, you know, and it's so easy to start overthinking things. And so let's just say, like, everybody just try to be aware. Be aware of how you're treating yourself. You know, be aware of these things, and that way you have a choice. Like I was kind of saying earlier, you have a choice on how you are going to let the day go. You know, I feel like there's always going to be problems, and the day is not always going to be easy. But I have a consistent here is I can control my attitude. We can control our attitudes on how we're going to let the day go.
That's very true. I think adults are kind of control freaks. I think you learn the most when you relinquish that control. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, realistically, the only thing I can control is my reaction to a situation. I can't control the situation itself. And I, at some point, need to learn how to be okay with that. Because if I can't be okay with that, I'm never going to be happy. And I do that all the time. Like, with teaching even, I have kids that have, like, such shitty situations. And I'm like, I want to control this and fix you in some way. But I can't. I'm just one teacher in your life. Like, in the long run, I don't mean that much, you know. But
you might and you don't even know it.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. But I guess the way I guess the way I see it is, like, I can't let that consume me, though. You know, like, I'm going to have years and years of kids. And if I let this consume me in my first year, I'm fucked when I get to year 10. And I'm going to give up, you know? And so for me, it's like, I can control myself. I can control the way that I react, and that's enough. And that's okay. Like, let that be enough.
That's a great mindset. It's a great way to look at it.
Absolutely.
It's a work in progress. It fails all the time.
So would that be your slogan if you were to have a slogan?
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
That would be your slogan?
Sure. Yeah.
Hashtag and everything?
Hell yeah. I mean...
Wait, what is it? Hashtag? It's a hashtag...
Hashtag control yourself. Like... I don't know,
hashtag control yourself?
Fuck everything else. Like, all you can control is yourself. Control yourself.
Point.
That's it.
I like it.
Yeah, that might stick. That might stick. That's a good one, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being in the teaching world, man, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it, Megan. I think it takes a special person to be able to do it. I really do.
I mean, sometimes I don't even know if I can do it. Like, I'm doing it, and I'm just like, ooh.
But you're still enjoying it.
Yeah, for the most part. Honestly, it takes a toll on you, though. Like, almost every weekend, I just want to get drunk and cry a little bit sometimes.
Really?
It's fucking...
So it's a bit emotionally draining.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I have kids that come from really rough backgrounds that need a lot of stuff from me. Things that I'm not prepared to even give them. Like, my kid that just lost his mom, I am not a grief counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got this kid 93 minutes a day, and I have to control him in some way, and also the rest of my class. And that's really hard. Like, when you have one new kid, it changes the dynamics of your entire classroom.
Yeah.
And so if you feel like there's one kid that's unpredictable that you can't control, it's a very slippery slope where all of your kids will become that way too.
Yeah.
They're very impressionable. It's exhausting, honestly. Like, I love it, but it's exhausting.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. You know, kids get they want to live vicariously too. They like a little bit of attention. That was me personally.
Oh, they love it.
I wanted a little bit of negative attention. You know, some of the bullying that I went through, I became a class clown because of it. Lashed out a little bit. So I don't know. I just, again, I commend you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
I think it's tough to take on that role. You know, I don't think our teachers get enough credit, you know, for what they do for our children and the, you know, possible future leaders.
Well, my biggest thing is that peacetime corner. What'd you call it?
Peace Corner. It's called the Peace Corner. Yeah.
Yeah, the Peace Corner sounds like
I
a nice
love
place.
that.
I feel like as an adult, every job should have a peace corner, and I feel like that is some cornerstone of what you are doing. Like, you know, you're getting kids from other classes to come sit in there. So I feel like that's very unique, and that's a powerful thing. So everybody, we're like halfway through the week, you know, and we have a choice on how we want to end this week. So let's find our own peace corners and our own mentalities. Let's take a moment to stop overcomplicating the day, and let's meditate and just be with ourselves for a little bit of time and digest some of the stuff that we're going through, because it's going to keep coming at us. So let's stay strong. You know, I'm saying let's believe and achieve it. Let's get through the week and let's do the right things.
Control yourself.
Absolutely. Control yourself.
Yeah,
meditate.
hashtag control yourself.
Hashtag control yourself. Awesome. Great stuff. Let her rip, Tater Chip, as always. That's what I like to say. You know, here we are, Discussion Combustion. Megan, awesome.
It was great. It was awesome.
It was awesome. Thank you guys.
A lot of fun
much.
having you here.
It was really great.
Appreciate you bearing with us through these transitions into
totally worth
the
it.
video
You guys
world.
were awesome. This is going to be amazing.
Bro, I appreciate your support. That's really cool. I know we kind of threw you to the wolves a little bit when you came in. You're like, I didn't know this was gonna be a video situation, but
whatever.
You did awesome.
She controlled herself.
Have some
She did.
beer, you're good to go.
You definitely hashtag controlled yourself. You were ready for the situation.
Yeah.
And I think you enlightened us and our listeners on a lot of great topics tonight.
Awesome.
You know, and gave us an inside look into the world of being a teacher. And we appreciate you being here.
Glad I was here.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, we're going to catch you guys next week. We love y'all. Stick with us. This video may drop, it may not, but we will be coming at you weekly starting March 4th for video podcast out of Denver. We're doing it in the 5280 Mile High City, baby. We're going to be wrecking it. What's We came in like a wrecking ball.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to describe it.
I'm sorry, I can't sing.
You know, it's a fun transition. I really appreciate all the listeners that have supported us since day one, following us on this project, supporting the Denver podcast scene. We have so many people to be thankful for. This is great. This is really a great opportunity for not only Discussion Combustion, but for any and everybody. You know, that's been our mission statement since day one. This podcast is about any and everybody.
Yeah, it's about everyone.
To be loving, critical, and accepting of every situation. That's what we're here to do, and we got an opportunity to do it. And spend great evenings, great Wednesday evenings, having a couple cold beers with, someone like Megan, and getting to know some people. That's really what this podcast is all about. It's not about anything other than that, man. It's about just hanging out, having a couple cold beers, having a great conversation, getting to know some people, and having people come on and enlighten the listeners on some different things. And I think we dove into that tonight.
Yeah, and let's just keep crushing the week, everybody. We got a long way to go, because we're doing it until we die. All right, so let's keep going, and it's going to be a wonderful life, because we're going to make it that.
That's right. That's exactly what we're going to make it, because life is what you make it. So we're going to do our thing, man. This is DCPC, episode 46, with Megan. Awesome episode. Really appreciate you guys. YouTube.com, Discussion Combustion YouTube channel. As you know, we're video podcasting. We're making this transition. If this video does drop, you're going to see we're learning what we're doing. If you're just listening, understand that we are transitioning into video. And nonetheless, we captured a great conversation tonight. So
we're going to see y'all next week.
We'll be back next week, guys. Appreciate it all. Thank you so much.
Megan.
We will see you soon.
Thank
Megan,
you, guys.
thanks again for being here. We'll talk to you soon.